Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here. So I will start with a fragment of a movie of Nick Cave.
In the end, I'm not interested in that which I fully understand. The words I have written over the years are just a veneer. There are truths that lie beneath the surface of the words. Truths that rise up without warning like the humps of a sea monster, and then disappear. What performance and song is to me is finding a way to tempt the monster to the surface. To create a space where the creature can break through what is real and what is known to us. This shimmering space where imagination and reality intersect. This is where all love and tears and joy exist. This is the place. This is where we live.
Instead of describing my work to you at length, I choose to make a photo essay of my sculptures and the many inspirations that lead to them. The starting point of this photo essay is a book that I made in 2012 called Mysterium Life Into One Another, Berlinde de Bruyckere in dialogue with Cranach and Pasolini. It was a very intense period in which I was looking for the common grounds between my own work and that of Lucas Cranach and Pier Paolo Pasolini, the themes that inspired all three of us. Passion, passionate desire, was something I mainly found in Pasolini's work. The suffering, the wound, the naked body, beautifully painted by Cranach's. While making this book, I became aware of the duality in my own work. For example, Pier Paolo Pasolini in Theorema creates the scene Emilia asking to be loved, and in Cranach's paint, the man of sorrow. Eros and Thanatos are the two driving forces that are not just very much present in my work, but also closely connected. Closely connected to these two extremities of my works, we are all flesh. It's a series of sculptures existing of both human figures and horses that for me connect. The way I look at Cranach's Man of Sorrows, the Man of Sorrows, resurrected drops of blood covering his face and body, showing his wounds and stigmata, the externalization of his suffering. And in the way I look at Emilia's body, yearning with desire, the same open mouth, unsatisfied desire.
got blood in the sunshine. Oil on the wheel that is blasted and busted away. A nail or a little piece of glass. A little piece of glass, a little piece of glass. Swarming like bees over the air, off the pump, off the thing. The blood that I'm pumping away, like bees over the air. Off the pump, off the thing. The blood that I'm pumping away. Off the pump, off the thing, the blood that I'm pumping away. If I pump blood in the sunshine and you wear a leather box with azaleas and I pump more blood and it seeps through my skin, will you adore the river, the stream, the trickle, the tributary of my heart as I pump more blood and it seeps through my skin? Will you adore the river? The stream, the trickle, the tributary of my heart. If I'm pumping blood like a common state worker, if I waggle my ass like a dark prostitute, do you think less of me? And my coagulating heart. Waggle my ass like a dog prostitute, coagulating heart, pumping blood. Come on, James. Top me off as I deepen a curtsy while you yell out mercy. We grow apart. Would you rip and cut me? Use a knife on me. He's shocked at the boldness, the coldness of this little heart. Tied up in leather, would you take the measure of the blood that I pump and the manic confusion of love? Supreme violation. Supreme violation. Oh, Jack, I beseech you. Oh, Jack, I beseech you. Supreme violation. Blood in the foyer, the bathroom, the tea room, the kitchen, with her knives blazed. I will swallow your sharpest cutter. Like a colored man's big blood spurting from me. Oh, Jack, I beseech, Jack, I beseech you. I beseech you. In the end, it was an ordinary heart. Oh, Jack, I beseech you, and as I scream out my pain, in the end, it was an ordinary heart. In the end, it was an ordinary heart. Jack, I beseech you. Supreme violation. Oh, Jack, I beseech you. I call out your name. Blood in the foyer of the bathroom. The tea room, the kitchen, and knives blade I swallowed. Your sharpest cutter like a colored man's dick. Blood spurting from me. Blood spurting from me. Oh, Jack. Oh, Jack. I beseech you. In the end, it was an ordinary heart. In the end, it was an ordinary heart. Pumping blood.
Partners in crime. This is what I like to call them. I look for connections in the work of others. The work of people like Nick Cave, Lou Reed, John Coetzee, Pier Paolo Pasolini. In their music, their films, their literature always start from human conditions, the psychology of human beings, the matters of the heart. The passion, the desire that remains unredeemed, always wanting more, craving for more, knowing that as soon as we find redemption, a new desire arises. In these crucial themes, that where we all also to build blocks of the oeuvre of the old masters, like Lucas Cranach, Francisco de Zurbarán, Luca Giordano, and many others. I would like to situate my choice of Lou Reed's song Pumping Blood to accompany the selection of the images that I made. For me, it outlines very well the volatility of this medium. A song passes very quickly. It's almost impossible to fully absorb its elements while listening. There are some sentences or elements that strikes you, that speak to us, that we remember, but what mainly picked up is on only the atmosphere, the state of mind and generate, the acceleration. The same goes for the series I present you, one after another, at a fleeting pace. There is a huge discrepancy between how we perceive them, these images in time, takes to actually realize creatures such as images, a sculpture, a song, a film. This lecture is eagerly volatile. You will leave here today with a certain numbers of memories, of images and other elements that you will recall. Some of them will pass, some will remain, burned in our memory. Those that touched you in a particular way, those you were very particularly sensitive to in this very moment, they will stay with you. Others will disappear. Contrary to the time-consuming nature of my sculptures, my work, my inspiration is also volatile, as life itself is. I fully depend on my state of mind, my temporary sensitivities, my temporary ability to absorb, to take in a process what I encounter. The daily images that cross my path, the movies I see, the literature, the paintings, it's these elements, the ones that remained, I would like to share with you. Anderlecht, 2013. When I first arrived in Anderlecht, at the skin treater's workshop to select skins to the work for my horse sculptures, I was deeply moved and overwhelmed by the raw activity in that place. I felt I entered a place where passion, desire, and death coincided, a place where life and death are intertwined and intensely present. There was no better way for me than to bring this to you, to show you the movie that my photographer, Mirjam de Vriend, made as a spectator of this ritual. An ancient ritual of decay and preservation. The salting of the freshly flayed skins for temporary conservation is an old custom that triggered my imagination, that inspired me. Following this video, I would like to share with you the works that were created upon this inspiration.
If I'm pumping blood like a common state worker, if I waggle my ass like a dark prostitute, do you think less of me? And my coagulating heart,
Cripplewood, 2012-2013, about John Maxwell Coetzee. I choose Coetzee to be my curator for the contribution I made in 2013 for the Belgian Pavilion at the Venice Biennial. I find in him a soulmate, someone that could nourish me during the creative process, instead of commenting on my ideas and my creative process. He sent me an essay, the story, The Old Woman and the Cats, upon which we start our correspondence. In these letters, I described my thoughts, my intuitions about the city of Venice, its patron, San Sebastiano, and the tree that I found, and how I wanted to integrate these elements into my installation. There is something ultimately passionate about writing letters, about trying to describe as accurately as possible the impressions we encounter, the emotions they ignite, to visualize, to persuade. It was a daring enterprise to start writing to a writer. I often felt my words were inadequate, to felt the need to back them up with images of the inspiration I found and the progress of the sculpture in my studio. And here I would like to share with you some extracts of Coetzee's work, combined with a selection of my own word as a sort of dialogue between image and word.
if I'm pumping blood like a common state worker, if I waggle my ass like a dark prostitute, do you think less of me? And my coagulating heart, waggle my ass like a dog prostitute, coagulating heart, pumping blood. Come on, James.
And the last theme is about Romeo Runa. Romeo, my dear, I wanted to work on Ovid's myth, Actaeon and Diana, the ultimate story on passion and passionate desire. Romeo Runa, a dancer I met through the company Les Ballets de l'Abbé that he danced for at that time, agreed to model for the sculpture. After seeing my drawings and reading the myth, he felt modeling alone would not be sufficient. He was inspired and wanted to perform with the wax antlers that I got in my studio at that time. He wanted to fully incorporate the theme and the physically blend into the sculpture. He embodied the myth, translated in his own story. I would like to share with you some images of this process, to share the moment where passion, desire turns to destruction, to death. That was it.
Now we are supposed to talk. Yeah, okay. Well, but what can we say? Come si dice in italiano, no? Molte immagini valgono più, cioè un'immagine vale più di molte parole, qua c'erano tante immagini, quindi insomma c'è tantissimo da dire. So Berlinde, what can we talk about? You are the interesting person, so I do the question, you answer, okay? I was surprised to see how central is in your work this theme of mythologies, especially this specific myth, the story of Diana and Actaeon. Why this story was so important for you, and where did you find out about this story, this imagery, and where did you discover this?
Very often when I'm a bit blocked in the studio, then I read the myths of Ovidius, because I became always very inspired.
So from the original source?
Yeah, from the original source. But then the work that I did related to the Actaeon, to the myth, has a lot of evaluations, and also a lot of layers. I have to tell you about the fact that my father was a hunter, so when I was a child, I was used to see all these dead animals that he brought from hunting. And as a child, I only could cry seeing this little Bambi laying on the floor in the butcher shop, because my father was also a butcher. And afterwards, when I was, let's say, in the 20s, then I went with my father on hunting places, and it changed my mind completely. When I was listening to hunters, they have an enormous passion for life, and they love these animals. So I found something completely the opposite of what I got in my previous feelings watching deers. And then when I found the myth of Ovidius, it was like, okay, now I have another theme. The passion is coming. And then I worked around that theme, starting from asking my father to bring a deer to the studio to do the cast on the real thing, and then to buy somewhere a lot of real antlers. And I casted them just to have the negative shape of the antler, and then I worked them out in wax. So there you have the completely opposite feeling of the normal antler who is really strong and not able to destroy, and to translate this matter into the wax, he became really fragile and human. So for me, the whole series of Endless became the portraits of all men suffering from being punished by desire.
Yeah, from desire and curiosity as well, because actually Acton was punished because he was spying the goddess, and where they were taking the bath. So there is a sense of punishment in your images as well.
Absolutely, but not only the pain is what you can see and feel watching the sculptures that I did related to Romeo, My Dear, or Actaeon. There was always a soft side also, the way that I translate them in this very fragile wax, or the textile who became part of the sculpture just to cover it or to protect it. So there is always this duality between suffering and love and taking care.
Yeah, we are all flesh. This we can say is one of your mottos. And actually, talking about Actaeon again, I was thinking about the paintings by Titian that I displayed, where you see the myth of Actaeon and Diana, let's say declinated in the top sexuality. Really is one of the most sensual. These two paintings are between the most sensual paintings ever painted in art history, and all this flesh, flesh painted in a very, let's say, impressionistic way, to make it real. It was at the time was considered more realistic to paint in this way, to give more this tactile sense of the flesh. It's a little bit what you do with your works, actually.
Yeah.
I think that is shocking when you see the visual result that this material has. I don't think it's sensual at all. You always talk about this is my impression about love and death, about Eros and Thanatos. Do you feel that this flesh has a sensuality, has a life?
Yes, I believe in that. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel myself a sculptor, but also a painter. And because I use the technique of wax, I can paint. And in the painting there, that's the place where I touch the surface. And I think it's in the way that you are confronted with the work that you have the different feelings between hate and love, between pain and taking care. And it depends all on you. Your personal state of mind or human condition is the way that you will look to the work. And I'm very happy that I'm not a painter, but a sculptor, and that I can use the technique of painting to load up my sculptures. I'm not able to make a sculpture just in one material as stone or of bronze. I really need the technique and the technique of wax and the textile, who is something very close to human beings, because we are wearing textile, we're wearing clothes. So there is always this side that makes my work more comfortable to look at, even when it's talking about the heavy topics of anger, fear, and death.
Yeah, then by the way, wax is probably the most pictorial technique in sculpting, so it makes sense, yeah.
But also in the way that I'm using the skin of the horses. And when you asked before, where is the love or the life in your work, I think it's very visible, especially in the works We Are All Flesh that I did with the horses. There you have really these compositions where one horse is growing into the other, and this gives me the freedom to talk about love, to talk about passion, but not with human bodies, because when I used the human bodies to express the same, then we became all more longing for more, or longing for some characters that we want to see, and it's not my intention to do that. I want to make this very intimate moment much more abstract and to talk about that moment with horses and not with real humans.
Yeah, horses are probably some of the most spectacular of your achievements. The cycles of work you have done are really great. And how happened that you thought for the first time to work with this kind of technique, material?
The horse.
Yeah, the real skin of real dead animals.
Yeah, for my first work that I did with horses was in '99 already. There I took contact with the University of Ghent, because there they have the clinic when they have sick animals that they try to find solutions for. And sometimes there are horses who are dying there. And I have a huge access to their equipment and the people who can help me to hang and to make a composition with the body of the horse. And also there I feel myself a sculpture, that I'm able to make a sort of composition, or it's like a performance.
Yeah.
Working with a body that just died, who is still warm. It's a very emotional thing to do, but I need it. It's not that I can just start from whatever animal. So the importance of a horse, who is an animal who is really close to human beings. As you mentioned, kings, they want to be portraited on a horse, and they are thinking that the power of the horse will become their power. So, and still we are so close to horses, we see them all over in the landscape, in nature, and they are wild and they are domestic at the same time, what I like very much.
Yeah, then by the way, is the animal who took man to victories, to progress, traveling, etc., is the symbol of energy. If you think about the Boccioni painting of the growing city, the horses,
Uccello
pulling.
Also,
It's something that you find in all the tradition from middle. But your horses are defeated. They are a symbol of, they are not winners, they are more losers than,
I don't know. Maybe in the beginning, when I was working for the Museum of the First War in Ypres, they asked me to reflect on what means war today. And then I went to their archive, and I was struck by all the images of the dead horses during the war, laying on the floor in the city of Ypres, completely abandoned. Nobody was there to take care. And then these images of the wagons completely piled up with dead bodies of horses. And for me there, I found the topic where I wanted to work around, and the body of the horse became the metaphor for death. Death in war, it's not like our own death, who is very single and private, but when we are talking about death in war, it became anonymous, and this is not something that you can explain or that can translate with the human body. It's too small, and the power of the horse and these images that I found in their archive feeded me to work around the topic. But now, as I still continue working with bodies of horses, but they became much more human. So I work more in a very abstract way, and I give them human feelings and shapes, even shapes.
Yeah, for sure. I looking at your images, by the way, this video clip that you created for, actually we were lucky because it's a kind of new artwork that Berlinde created for our talk today. Thank you for that. I was really impressed because it's really like an archive of memories, like a private archaeology, we can say. I was touched because you mixed up details, especially taken from cinema, classical movies, also some classical art. There is a lot of Pasolini. We have seen many many frames from his movies, and a lot of German art actually, Dürer, Cranach, etc. I didn't see a lot of Italian art. While Pasolini, I think visually is a very, very Italian painter. We studied art history in Bologna with Roberto Longhi, by the way, and he almost got the degree as an art historian. He's a very, you have seen in my PowerPoint, Pontormo, Rosso, this was strong source of inspiration, Caravaggio as well, especially in the 50s where we had all this big rediscovery of Caravaggio work. Why there is, you don't, do you think that German northern art is closer to you than Italian one?
For me, it was closer to me because I studied more during that time. That I was making the book was really related to the Cranach and Pasolini and my own work. But in my studio, I have also a lot of images of Caravaggio. So just to give you an idea, I'm working in an old school building with big windows because daylight is really important for me to work. And then between the windows, there is a sort of archive of images. And it's a bit the same what you have seen this afternoon. So they are all mixed up. And it's also how it happens in my mind. When I work on a sculpture, I have thousands images in mind that I use when I need them.
Yeah, I see. And what I wanted to tell you. Yeah, then I like also how sometimes, especially in your recent output, you use these kind of boxes that they are, piece of furniture where you put inside your sculpture in a way that you can see very well from a distance. You have to get close. Actually, I think is what I've done. In Vienna, you had a series of that. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. And do you want to provoke a sense of voyeurism with this act, or not? Or just to get close? I don't know.
It's not a sort of voyeurism that I want to evoke. It's more to show you how fragile the sculptures are and to protect them and to put them very often on another level. Like when I have the works made with the title of dedicated to Pier Paolo Pasolini, the three works into one another. They are exposed in the same vitrines coming from another museum during the past, and I was keeping the furniture inside just to remind me on an earlier history of the vitrine. And the way that you are looking to the sculpture is more respectful. I think when you put the same figure on the floor or standing on the floor, they have the same size, and I think we don't have so much respect for them since they are not the perfect human beings where I'm talking about. I'm talking about human beings who are hurt or damaged by life. And for that, they need a sort of protection. And otherwise, it's correct when you look to the window, there is something unclear. And I like this very much, that you don't see what you get, that you have to do some effort to try to understand more.
Yeah, you show me something I didn't know, this intervention you did in a church, and you'd like to do more, you just told me. What's the relation between sacred art and your art? Do you believe yourself as an artist with a sense of sacred, a sense of religion in your work? Is it just human or both?
I think it's both, but I was growing up in a Catholic border school, so since my 50 years old, I was used to see all these Catholic figures, and I was growing up with all the stories from the Bible also. And I feel that this is something that's into my body, it's into my mind, and it's not that I'm really looking for to translate only this, but it was giving me the power to talk about human conditions and human existentialistic questions.
And just big final question, talking about religion and sacred. Do you feel redemption in your work, in your image. Do you think that these images of strong pain, suffering, and should be also symbol of redemption for us? Is what you're looking for?
Yeah, also a symbol, or that it gives you some consolation. Very often people say my work, it's sad and it's only about death and anger and fear, all these topics where I'm talking about. But the reason why I'm talking about these topics is just to open a dialogue between the audience and my work. We all, once we have this situation where we have to deal with loss and with death, and I think today there is no language to talk about this anymore, and I hope really that a work of art can be able to let you mourn.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille.